Bert! Get him! Yeah! Ron Babe was right.
I'm feeling spry. Well, there you go. The shortest Liberty Bibberty. My God, my tongue is tied. It's the shortest month of the year, and that's good because right after the end of the shortest month of the year, meaning this Friday, Pheasant Fest opens up in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. I've said it before. I'll say it again. I know it's not possible for all you to get there because there isn't enough room for that many listeners. But if you're in a day's drive, you got to come out and check it out. It's going to be unbelievable. I've been literally packing up. We made an extra bar for our spot because we've got more people there with us, bigger crew with us this year. We're just going to have so much fun. Yesterday, I had to get a couple chores done. One of them was I had to teach my neighbors how to can, meaning, glass jar, mason jar, boiler, you know what I'm talking about. A couple of you do that stuff, right? So we canned a whole bunch of goose that the hunter shot and a venison that we saw walking down the street. My neighbor gave me a doe. I told him, I said, boy, if you get an extra doe, I'll teach you how to can that geese. My God. It was a long day yesterday. And, 90 minutes in between filling the canner up the pressure cooker. And, of course, there was some libations. And we had some friends come over. But, that's how I filled my Saturday. I'm filling my Sunday with getting my truck packed up. And it's just going to be like, before you know it, I leave on Tuesday for Pheasant Fest. Now, Onyx, the title sponsor of this show and most of your hunts and adventures outside, is going to have the after-hours party, 9 o'clock, Friday night in South Dakota at the Ramkota. Happens to be the motel I'm at. Just in case, I'll leave my key out in the parking lot. You guys can all come in. It'll be a hospitality suite in my room, too. But it's not going to be big enough. But it's going to be big enough where Onyx is holding the after party. Leinenkugel's going to supply the beer. There's going to be live music. It's going to be as much fun as you can have on a Friday night in Sioux Falls. And I guarantee. Now, I have not spent a lot of Friday nights in Sioux Falls. My feeling is, driving through Sioux Falls a few times, this is going to be the most fun you're going to get to do in Sioux Falls this whole weekend. I don't care if you're talking about any of the seminars. I don't care if you're talking about the main banquet. This is going to be it, right? You come to the booth, you're going to see the Gunner Kennels. We're going to have, let me see, what we got. An intermediate and a medium will be on display. The food crates, the bumpers, the bowls, Boss shot shells. They'll be in my truck. Yeah, I might have a few free samples. If you shoot 410, remind me, okay? It's a wink. Boss will not be there, but we're going to make sure their butt is going to be there next year, okay? Because they need to be there. We need to be shooting, when you hop from this land to that land, public land to WMAs back to private, why do you want to go from lead to non-toxic? Just stick with Boss shot shells. Copper-plated death is what I think that's their new series coming out. It's called Copper-plated death. Garmin will be right across the aisle from me on a corner, right on the front. You're going to see all they have. And I told you guys, go to Garmin, see if they still got, they had the 200 and I believe the collars on sale for $100 off. Yeah, that's not a discount through me. That's just what Garmin is doing before Pheasant Fest. W Supply is going to be there, and they are tag teaming with Aldergrove Dog Box. Now, I know Aldergrove, you've heard me talk about them. They make, if you can, they're not a sponsor, okay? I'm just giving them they made me a beautiful kennel to fit into my four-wheel camper, a permanent kennel. Not like a portable gunner, in and out, in and out, in and out. No, they made me a beautiful stainless steel and aluminum kennel. Aldergrove is going to be sharing the space with W and you got to come over to my booth. Right next to my booth is going to be the four-wheel camper booth. So you've heard me talk about this four-wheel camper Model M for, 6 months now? If you're coming to Pheasant Fest, you will see it. It'll be popped up. You'll see how I think my kennel design was the best ever because it literally creates a second bunk bed. But I'm telling you, if you can draw it up, in your imagination of imaginations, because everything is welded. There's no pop rivets. There's no pop. I think there's a pop rivet that holds the door lock on. Okay, that's what I could tell you. Everything else is a weldment, and I know welding. I spent my entire career as a millwright. Know how to weld. These guys make me look like a piker. It's just beautiful. Anyway, so you can go to their booth and you go to W, get some collars, get some gear, whatever you want to do over there. They'll have a sign directing you to my way. I'll have a sign directing you to their way. You can see the handiwork of Alder Grove. So that's a plus, okay? Walton's did not come into the picture this year. I bet you they're going to be next year. It's going to be closer to their hometown. That's all I'm saying. You can figure that out if you look up Walton's. And while you're looking up Walton's, order the damn catalog and get yourself ready. You should see the stuff I have acquired. Now, granted, I bought some stuff over the years, but I've got some really nice Walton stuff. Obviously, they're a sponsor of mine, but they can sponsor your next wild game kitchen. They have sales all the time. They have discounts all the time. I think I have a discount somewhere for it. I have to dig it up. Well, I take that back. If you're a Patreon patron, you know what the discount is because that's posted on your homepage. From spices to slicers to dicers to tubs. We use the meat tubs. We use the stuffers to jam our venison and goose into the mason jars. I used vacuum sealers when I had my meat all deboned and back on ice. There's nothing they don't have. There's nothing. Mossberg & Son, O.F. Mossberg & Son since 1919. Yeah, they are going to be there too. I thought they were going to be right behind me, connected. I think I was wrong. If I said that, forgive me. We may have a late change, but hopefully they get moved over to our section. But if not, it's just a stone's throw away. You'll be able to hear my voice yakking, and I'll be able to hear you over there asking them, what gun's this, and if you come by the booth, okay, I am going to have a QR code. Is that to collect your emails so I can drive you crazy throughout the year selling you stuff? No, because I don't sell you a lot of stuff, right? I don't. That's not my thing. But if you come by, you click on that QR code, you will be in the running for a Mossberg shotgun. Yep. That to be determined. It'll be a nice one, though. I have one in mind. It might be the 28 gauge. That's not bad. But they're going to be there. You can see their guns. You can come over and hit our QR code and see if you can win one, right? You can kick the wheels. Well, if you kick the wheels on my truck, I'm probably going to kick you back. But you can jump up in the back of my truck and see with the four-wheel camper. You can also replenish your canine athlete, wilderness athlete addiction that I know you all have because I have it. I use their bone and joint every morning. It's the only thing that keeps me going to jiu-jitsu. I use energy and focus. I use hydrate and recover. And my dogs use all the same things except it's under the canine athlete. They're going to be right there in the same main aisle as us. They were there last year, and they're going to be this year. Of course, Purina is always there. Purina is, I don't want to say they're the title sponsor of Pheasant Fest. They're close, but they're the biggest. There's going to be the bird dog stage. There's going to be seminars. There's going to be Q&As with not the world's, but yeah, let's say the world's best dog trainers, or at least the hemispheres. How about that? The hemisphere's best dog trainers. And my friends from Marshware will be there with us in our booth space. They will be with us. And wait till you see some of this stuff. Now, they're decking us out. Like, we're all going to get shackets, right? I think I'm wearing a shacket right now, but this is something I had for about 20 years. It's like a flannel, but it's like a canvas, and I don't tuck it in. But, yeah, they're going to deck my whole crew out in shackets with our logo on it, and they'll have some other stuff they're selling. They're going to have a coupon code. They'll have their own QR poster. You're going to get unbelievable sales at Pheasant Fest on Marshware. Check out some of this. Well, you can check what I'm wearing because I'll be wearing it all weekend. Purina Pro Plan, of course, like I said, is going to be there. But here's a little surprise. I don't know if I mentioned it last week. Well, there I go. There I go. Blah, blah. Where are we at? 9 minutes. Okay, I promise. Short. The Upland Institute, which is me and Justin McGrail. I don't believe Justin's coming out. I wish I could get his butt out there, but that's we got Trent out there. We got Trent Hardy. He's over at Justin's kennel all the time. He's put his dog through the Upland Institute. He will be there to show you the Upland Institute. We'll have it running in a loop. You can come up and look at different segments. That's going to be there by our bar. But here's the surprise. Right behind us in our space is my old friend Jack Butler. If you know that name, then you probably bought a pair of gum leaf boots, okay? But there's something new. It's Jack Butler Outdoors, but you got to stop by and see what Jack's got now, okay? And yeah, he's got a lot of course, he's got the My Shots and the Jaeger leads, which is, me and Jack, but I don't even know. Jack didn't tell me I should say something, so I'm not going to say something. I guess I should have called Jack before I did this intro. But you got to come by and see what I'm calling the new lineup, okay? Please come by and see. Now, Jack is one hell of a... If you don't need some kind of a rubber boot, come around from the south side of our booth because Jack is like a carnival hawker. He will get you right in the door, sit you down, measure you up. He'll slap a boot. He'll make you realize that you need this boot even if you already had a pair. That's what kind of salesman he is. And he's our buddy. I'll be there. Bill McPhail will be there. The Roof will be there. Trent and Heather will be there. It's going to be so much fun. We'll bring the cornhole game. We'll have our 2 bars set up. Is that long enough? Upland Institute, everything. Patreon patrons know that so many of these sponsors that are there also have discounts that only Patreon patrons get. And every month I've been releasing the biography of my dogs. And this goes back to a long way. And I'm only on dog 3. And these are dogs worth mentioning, okay? But you can go back and listen to the backlog, but you have to be a Hunting Dog Podcast, Hunting Dog Talk tier. Not to come on the Zooms, not to get all the discounts, but if you want that extra content, every month I do it's kind of like me reading a book out loud about the dogs, and I mean the untethered truth about them, how they got there, how they left sometimes, how they killed things, how they didn't kill things, how I wanted to kill them. It's just unfiltered Ron's history of dogs, and that's in the Hunting Dog Podcast, Hunting Dog Talk level of Patreon. There, Jesus. 12 minutes, 22 seconds. I'm back at it again. Can't wait to see you guys. Can't wait to see you girls. And I can't wait to see you girls more. Well, I could wait to see you Pheasants Forever members more, but that's kind of goes hand in hand. Bye. All right. Hey, everybody. It's Ron Bain with the Hunting Dog Podcast, and I am on the phone with a return visitor, although it's been nearly a decade. Her name is Christine Cunningham and Steve Meyer. And Christine reached out to me, I don't know, 3-4 months ago, knowing I was a slow reader, and told me about a book that they compiled, and it's called The Land We Share, A Love Affair Told in Hunting Stories. So I'm going to tell you right off the bat, Steve and Christine, I was confused by the title. Okay? I was like, a love affair. Okay. I think of a love affair as like 2 married people cheating on their spouses, okay? That's, if my wife said, are you having a love affair? I wouldn't say, well, yes, honey, for the last 38 years. So first of all, somebody explain the title.
I can do it.
Yeah, go ahead.
So the love affair, you're not alone. That's a question we got a lot when the book came out, was what's the love affair part mean? And is it you and Steve? Is it you and the dogs? Is it with the land? And it's really all encompassing. We're talking about how, because so much of the book is focusing on the connections and relationships that can form around hunting, that it is like a love affair. It's got all those nuances of good times and bad, highs and lows, when we feel like you could be crying and laughing at the same time. It's just that dynamic. So we felt like love affair. We thought maybe people would get it.
Might have been one of them.
obviously you've had to explain it more than once then.
Yeah.
I feel because I am not like Mr. Reader, you know, well, I've read I've got like a collection of books I read or reread. And I was like, I'm struggling to figure out the love affair. I mean, but what you're saying resonates with me. I mean, we all love what we do, the friends, the places, the dogs. It makes sense. But I kept going, where's the drama? Where's the sordid love affair?
It's not that
I
kind of
wanted I wanted to put that part in, but Christine wouldn't allow
Well, you might have got it on the New York Times bestseller list if you did that.
it. Right. That's the problem. That's
Uh,
what it's missing, Steve.
right. It's missing just like a good rom-com. You got to have a little drama, and then it's got to bounce back, right? Um, I do have to ask though, just so people, the people that don't know you, and I want them to read. And I'll tell you, the book was actually tailor-made for me, and I know it's a compilation of, Steve, a lot of your short stories or articles you've written, right?
Yes.
Christine, do you also write short? I know you wrote haiku when you were a teenager, but were you also a writer of short stories locally, or did you have to come up with fresh ones and Steve had to massage his old ones?
No, so Steve and I both we wrote columns, an alternating outdoor column for our community paper a long time ago here on the Kenai Peninsula. And then we started writing an alternating outdoor column for the Anchorage Daily News.
Okay.
And I did it for about 5 years. Steve still has his column. I took a break, but we both drew from our published columns in the Anchorage Daily News. And there was about 300 to start, and we narrowed it down to picked out the best ones for the book.
Gotcha. Because if I would have had to like follow the book, and that's just me, but I know there's a lot of bird hunters that didn't go to college. I would have to keep going back, like, oh, wait a minute, I got to go. How did I get to that? But so I love books that are written, and there's a lot of good outdoor books like that. Like, it's a great little story. So it's kind of like you're on that drive somewhere where you always tell your friends that same, remember the time story. So for that, I give you guys, I think the format is great. The love affair, that was the only thing that was confusing. The stories resonated 100% with me. With that, I'm going to defer to Steve first. I'm going to go age over beauty. Like when somebody opens a door for me, they always say, go ahead, sir.
Damn straight there.
Age before beauty.
Right.
So Steve, your background is raised in North Dakota.
Right.
What part, actually? I mean, it doesn't matter, but
our farm was in southeast North Dakota, down
okay.
about 60 miles west of Fargo.
Gotcha.
Bunch of small towns. The town I came from had 600 people at best. So I'm what you call real rural.
Real. Yeah, my graduating class in Chicago had 900. But you started hunting early with your dad. You have some great stories in there of what I call, like, it didn't happen for me as a kid. It didn't happen for me until I was a teenager, but just traipsing along and keeping up.
Yep.
And this,
When I had such I don't even know where the fascination came from. My dad and his hunting buddies were always hunting. And from the time I can remember, I always wanted to go. And finally, when I was about 5 years old, I basically browbeat my dad into letting me go. But the coolest thing about that was when he'd take me with his buddies and we go hunting, and they never treated me like a kid. If they were cold, I was cold. If they were hungry, I was hungry. I was just one of the guys.
right.
And, they talked to me like I was part of it. And I think that made such a huge difference in how much I loved it. I just couldn't get enough of going. And it didn't matter that I wasn't carrying a gun.
Right.
Which I didn't start carrying one until I was about 8 years old. But
Yeah, I mean, you had to be physically big enough to hold something, right? You know,
Right, right. I had to get big enough to hold it. Yeah.
and it doesn't sound like your
They
dad was,
didn't have they didn't have chipmunks back then.
no, they had Model 12s back then.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Um, and you know, and this is me because this is one of my I get a lot of bad emails about this. You know, introducing children to the outdoors, I think some people overdo it early as opposed to like letting them tag along and keep up. I think that's where you really like you're gonna know if you want to do it, or you might wait till your legs are long enough. You probably weren't even waiting until your legs were long enough to walk. But he wasn't carrying you out there in a backpack, and he didn't set you up with hand warmers and you just, all right, you want to come with?
No.
Right. You know?
Yeah, in fact, everything. If I didn't get up in the morning to go, I didn't go.
Right. You woke up and said, hey,
That,
come on.
that started me down a path where I'm up at 4 o'clock every morning. I have been my whole life because of that. And it got to the point where sometimes, the guys would go out on a Friday night. I'd be waking their butts up because I wasn't missing out on hunting because they wanted to sleep in. I would go drag them out of bed.
So it was the opposite. They weren't going to drag you out of bed, but when they were hungover, come on, Dad, come on
Yeah,
up. Come on.
yeah, let's
And they're like,
go.
go.
Somebody's got to drive.
And your feet wouldn't reach the pedals yet. But when I can't remember from the book, or maybe it wasn't clear enough. When did you leave North Dakota?
1971.
71. So you were just like preteen, 10, 12 years old or something?
I was 12, 11 or 12, something.
Okay. Yeah. So at that point, you probably had some experience. Did you go to Alaska just because it was Alaska, or did your dad get transferred there and you just happened to fall in love with it? How did that happen?
What happened was my dad's brother came up here. He was working for a helicopter outfit in Kenai, so he brought my dad and another guy up for a moose hunt in the fall of 1970.
Wow.
And Dad and this buddy of his, they drove up to Alaska. They both killed moose, and Dad came home from that trip and said, "We're moving to Alaska." Put the farm up for sale.
Jeez.
Here we are, just like that. Yeah. And I
So-
was so happy. I mean, yeah.
that can't have repeated itself too many times. I know a lot of Alaskans are not from Alaska, but that story, I don't know. Is that you think that's common? You've been there long enough. Have you heard that from other friends whose dad said we're just moving?
A few. Yeah, I've had a few say that, but it was the hunting. That was what brought us here. And of course, at the time, the oil field was going good, so there was plenty of work. And
anybody who was a farmer could do anything, right?
Pretty much, yeah. So
I mean,
my dad, when he got up here, he literally went to work 2 days after we got here. We drove up the Alcan Highway. And so, but the funny part is then in 1979, the whole family left me and I stayed here. Everybody went to Wyoming.
He said,
Yeah.
He said, good talk.
Yeah.
All right. We'll
see you.
See you at Christmas.
Yeah.
So Christine, I do know from the book, and I like I said, I kind of re-listened to our last episode. You're a native Alaskan, but not anywhere near the same path of outdoors.
No, mine's
You're
real
born in
different.
Alaska, but you could have been born in Manhattan. How does that work?
Yes. Yeah, I was outdoorsy as a kid, but it was very light outdoorsy. It was like chase butterflies and look around at birds. Wasn't really until I think I was 27 when I used to say Steve invited me duck hunting, but he's since clarified that I invited myself, which is true.
You did.
So I invited myself duck hunting. I was 27, and really it was all a shock to me. People who duck hunt know that when it's miserable, it's the best. But for me, it was I was surprised we were still going in the rain. I was really surprised to be crawling through marsh muck with shrews darting around and spider webs. And it was, I'm not sure if I recorded or even were to look at what happened that first day on a video, I would be like, wow, I wanted to do that again. But I really did. I was really hooked from day one. It was very visceral.
Well, that would not be textbook introduction to hunting, though, right? Like
No.
if someone was trying to say, you know what, I'm going to take on this nice walk on a nice day. That's a nice introduction, and then maybe get a meal, right?
Right. There were rotting salmon that I had to crawl by.
Hey, as I told her when she decided she was going to be a hunter, I told her right off the bat, I said, well, you got to learn that you're not a girl anymore. You're just a hunter.
Hunter, yeah.
And what we do, we do. Everybody does what we do. I kind of brought her into it the same way I was brought into it.
Kind of like
Maybe that was the role, but I think Christine appreciated that. I didn't pamper her. I didn't do any of that stuff. I just said, this is what we do. You're either in or you're out.
Ron,
Sounds
so
like-
one time I feel like I might have a cut on the bottom of my foot. I've been wearing these chest waders and I can't tell what's going on, but in my mind, it starts seeming like maybe my boot's filling up with blood. It's that bad. So I said, I need to look at this cut I got in my foot, and I get it out and I look at it and it's nothing, just a tiny little cut. And I said, Steve, do you have a Band-Aid? And he said, if a Band-Aid will fix it, it's not that bad. I was still a girl.
I can't believe he didn't bring some moleskin in case you got a blister.
I know. Where's your kit? You got a kit for the dogs.
We'll send a helicopter in to get you out of here right now. Jeez. But all right, then Christine, and I don't know if I asked this in the last one, but there's so many new listeners, obviously. There's probably only 8 people still that have been listening to this for 10 years. What made you want to? Because it doesn't sound like, was it a book you read or was it a show you saw on TV? And I'm not being like girly girl here, but my daughter, one of my 3 that doesn't hunt, watched that movie. What's the one with the boat, the girl with the arrow in the alternate world? Hunger Games.
Hunger Games.
And she wanted a bow. And I got her a recurve bow and she learned to shoot. She never hunted anything. What was the kickoff? Can you pinpoint it?
Yeah, it's an odd path probably, because most of my reading was Eastern reading. I practiced yoga. There was a few days where I was a vegetarian, and I worried about my fellow sentient beings and their suffering and all that stuff.
Wow.
And so, but I did eat meat. I've always been a meat eater. I love a steak. And so the idea of hunting was, to me, like, maybe this is a way to be honest, intellectually honest, learn about what you're doing, go deeper into it and take a look. And then I trusted Steve. I don't think I would have gone hunting with like just anybody, or sign up for it. I could tell that it meant a lot to him. He was recovering from a major surgery, and he'd gotten away from hunting for a long time, and he wanted to get back into it. Just the way he talked about it, I was like, there's something here. And even that first day when I shot and missed, clean missed, and the birds were flying away, Steve picked up my hole. I just shot once. That was a thing for a while. I would just shoot one time. But he picks up my hole and he holds it up to my nose and he said, "This is what fall smells like to me." And I was just kind of charmed by it. I didn't know what it was, and I knew there was a lot more. And it has been, 20 years has been a big learning experience, and it's very meaningful to me now. I can't imagine I can't imagine not having it be a part of my life.
So it didn't come from an article or a magazine. You just had to get like where. So okay, I got to back up. So you must have known Steve, and he talked
I
about
met him in jail.
in where?
In jail.
In jail. Well, there's a good spot. You get a lot of time to chat back and forth.
Yeah, we worked in a jail together.
Okay.
He did my orientation,
Okay.
employee orientation.
Okay.
But we like to say we met in jail because it sounds.
I've only been to jail once for about 4 hours, and I didn't meet anybody worth a shit.
Launch your career as a hunter.
Yeah, it did not launch. What it launched my career is being better about what you pack in your suitcase to go to the airport is what it did. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That was a dark day, and that was a dark day, and expensive day too. So okay, so you guys had known each other. You're working for the county or state or whatever. Okay, that at least kind of gets the tie into it, because you certainly didn't like bump into him at a Starbucks, because he ain't going to a Starbucks, I can tell. So
No. He wasn't in my yoga
we
class.
had known each other for a little while because we worked together, and so we had this thing going on. But at that time, I was on the local SWAT team. I was on call 24/7s. And so I had basically stepped away from hunting. I didn't have a dog at the time. So that was really, so when we first met, I talked about it a lot. I
right.
just hadn't been doing it. And then I damn near died in the hospital. And at that point I said, okay, enough's enough. I mean, I'd always loved hunting, and I wanted to get back to it. And
Right.
so I made some changes in how I was doing it and doing things. And that's where Christine came in. And when I said, I'm going duck hunting, then she said, well, I guess I'll go too, or whatever the hell she said. I don't remember.
So what time do I meet
I
you?
know.
Yeah.
4:30.
Yeah, when I go to pick her up at 4 a.m. and it's raining outside, she comes to the door and she said, "Are we still going?" Yeah, we're still going.
Well, you got to remember, Steve, yoga class has the 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. She wanted to know maybe you could catch the 2 in the afternoon class when the weather would be better.
Right.
She's like, she didn't show up with a yoga mat to sit on, though, did she?
No, I think she knew I wouldn't allow it. She was pretty funny though, and she borrowed some of my clothes and some other clothes, and she looked like a homeless person, you know. So she actually fit right in the swamp. She could have looked like a swamp creature after, an hour or so. So
So then the dogs, now, if you had just gotten back into hunting, so this first duck hunting trip, you didn't have either your labs or anything, right?
no.
I mean, if you hunt the right spot, yeah, I mean, usually you can find your cripples and what have you. It's a little work sometimes and terrible when you lose one, but how long before or did you knew you were going to have to, as soon as you decided to go hunting again, did you know you were going to get a dog again right then?
Yeah, I knew I was going to get a dog again. I just didn't know when it would happen.
Right.
Turns out that Christine, well, she can tell you about really why she decided that she had to have a dog.
Yeah, let's
That's
hear
a pretty good
Dave.
Yeah, we had been duck hunting quite a bit. That was all I knew about hunting. And Steve's dad invited us back to North Dakota to hunt pheasants. I'd never done that. In the morning, I'm looking at the coffee cup trying to memorize what a rooster looks like for when we go out.
Because they told you don't
Yeah,
shoot hens.
he's
And
like,
you're
you're
like,
gonna know. I'm like, not necessarily. But we were with Steve's dad and his dad's best friend Eddie that hunted together their whole lives. And Eddie had a little English cocker named Windsor. And this little dog was gonna work the field in front of 4 of us, and all day long. He wasn't any taller than the grass, and his head was popping up and just fell in love with this little dog. He's such a hard worker. And at the end of the day, I reached down and scratched his ears and, oh, you're such a cute little dog. And Eddie says, you hear that? She called you a dog. And I was like, oh, what is this, like anthropomorphism? He said that, well, he was getting older and anymore he only went because of the dog. And I thought, well, that doesn't make any sense. Here we're thinking about getting labs so they can get birds when we can't get to them, not so that we'll have to go when we don't want to. But now I look back and that makes perfect sense. I can't tell you how many times we go just because of the dogs.
Yeah, some of the stories in the book are, a bit of a long drive just to find out that, there's no birds and this is kind of a divergence, but one of the things I made a note of here, depending on what you were hunting, even, you're like, no, we're not. I think at one point you said, I wrote it down somewhere. I just can't read my own chicken scratch. We're not hunting whitetail ptarmigan today, right? You're like,
it was willows.
Willows. Okay.
We weren't hunting willows. Yeah. We were hunting whitetails.
So we're passing up on the I might have to go.
That drove for a while. That drove Christine crazy. She'd be like, what the hell is wrong with you? I'm like, well, maybe someday you'll get it.
But and then you guys also mentioned, and I had some friends that used to go up there quite a bit, and they basically quit going because the birds in that area, I don't know what area they went to, were in such decline that where normally hunter numbers really don't have an effect. Overall effect on population. Not to get into biology, but is there I don't want to say factual, is there some scientific reasons or research into this, or is this something like our southeastern quail? It's like everything's against them. What's going on with the ptarmigan there?
Well, the willow ptarmigan are a bit cyclic.
Okay.
So there's some cause for their numbers to decline in cyclic period.
Okay.
The whitetails, and that's the ones we really hunt the most.
Mm-hmm.
They live in the alpine their entire lives. They live up where the Dall sheep live.
Okay.
And one of the problems with whitetails is because of where they live, there's very little research been done on them. In fact, a lot of people will say that Christine and I know more about whitetail ptarmigan than anybody because we spent so much time around. But like you talked about in Alaska, it doesn't typically hunter numbers don't affect it because in all the years we've been doing this, I think there's been one time that we saw another hunter on a hillside a half a mile away. That's the only time we've ever seen another person when we're hunting.
Wow.
So of course we're working for it. I mean, we're climbing 2 hours before we even start hunting.
Yeah.
But I guess the reality is with the whitetails, and they've been in serious decline for a while. A couple of things we think could have happened. The bird flu.
Oh.
Because we found some birds that were dead, hadn't been disturbed by predators or anything, and no apparent cause for their death other than there they are.
Wow.
So that happened kind of at the early onset of this drastic drop in numbers. Pressure from, it's funny, when COVID hit, we saw a tremendous influx of people into the wild country that we used to always be alone.
Yeah.
And so that has made some difference, not in so much that more people hunting them, but more people just being out in the field, and that changes the dynamic as well.
I guess, yeah, I could imagine that with so much room to move and so much, your terrain, it's not like an island of terrain. Your terrain is for, maybe they're just like, you know what? Be better on the other side of the hill. And it doesn't take them very long to get there. Yeah.
No, it doesn't. So, and that's another thing about the ptarmigan hunt. Ptarmigan, particularly willows and rocks, they're always moving. Just because you find ptarmigan in this spot today, you might not see them there for a month, 2 months, maybe never,
Wow.
because they have all this country they can be in. And, and it's all suitable feed, it's all suitable habitat.
It's all one
But,
monoculture,
yeah,
but one mono
it's a big,
landscape. Yeah.
so, you would think that with that, because it's so huge and so vast, that there'd be, flocks of 100, 200 birds. Well, back when I was younger, we would climb into the same mountains we climb today, and we would see flocks of 100 ptarmigan or more.
Wow.
Sometimes the mountain would lift up and it would just be amazing.
Wow.
So there's definitely something to, hunting pressure, people pressure, but there really hasn't been done a lot of research. So, that's kind of part of what we're doing is trying to build this relationship so we know what we're doing. So we're not doing anything to harm that system.
This is a little divergence to this, but when I think of, well, it's a little tied into that. When you said, or we were talking about the ptarmigan being able to fly, let's say a quarter mile or a half a mile. I don't know if they're a really long flying bird or not. But it wouldn't take them long to just find another happy spot, right? To live.
Right.
And then you think of North Dakota, which I go to every year. You pretty much know where not to walk. You know what I mean? In North, like,
right.
Like, okay, that field's plowed up, not walking in that field, right? You guys have to put like some weird faith into the fact that they might be there. I think I'd go back
to see that. Well, and one of the things for us that really was a game changer was when we got Winchester. That's our number one English setter. We came from North Dakota, and his line was big running dogs.
Right.
The people that were breeders, they hunted off a horseback. So he's a big runner.
Yeah.
And so for that's perfect for this country because he covers so much ground. A lot of the time he'll be out a mile ahead of us. And coursing up and down these slopes, it's just crazy how much elevation he gains and loses in a day. But because of that, and that's another reason we're pretty confident about what we're observing, because if there's birds, he finds them.
Right.
He covers all the ground. So
did you how long after the labs did you get Winchester then? Did you go? I mean, were you trying to do some ptarmigan hunting with the labs as well?
Yeah, not much. I used to in my younger days when I was pretty active hunter. I would take Goldens, labs, or whatever, and we'd go up hunting ptarmigan. They'd retrieve them, but they weren't big bird finders.
Right.
But the biggest reason I loved it, and I still do and always will, is because of the country, because you're in the high country.
Yeah.
But the whole thing with Winchester, well, when I was a kid in North Dakota, we always had labs or Chessies or Goldens, and we'd hunt with them. They were good flushing dogs. But one time there was people from out of state would come in, and in the field next to us, there was a couple of guys, and they get out of their truck and they're dressed, obviously they're pretty well to do. They got side by side, beautiful shotgun. They dropped the tailgate of their truck, and there's these two English setters in crates. They popped them out, and they just turned them loose and pointed to the field. In the meantime, they get their guns ready, and they're dinking around, and these dogs are running out in this field, going back and forth, and I'm watching them, and all of a sudden, they just lock up on point. I'd never seen anything like that.
Wow.
But it was, and then these guys still taking their time. They're like, getting over the fence, all that crap. Their dogs are up there. They walk in on these two setters and two cock pheasants flush. They shot them both, and I thought someday I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
And I had that in the back of my mind. Well, when Christine got drunk at the DU banquet and bought that shotgun, that's when it was a 28 gauge Beretta over under, and I told her, well, now that you have a proper upland gun, we have to have a proper upland dog. So that's how Winchester came into our lives.
Because of a little too much alcohol at a DU banquet.
Yep, absolutely.
You know, I was gonna open my gun safe. I have that exact gun that you have, that
Oh,
20 gauge
I
Beretta,
love that gun.
and
It's a
I
great gun.
it is. It's a great gun. But I luckily I already had the dogs. I had the like the path was different. I got the dog. I spent money on the dogs, and then later on when I couldn't hide dog money anymore for my wife, then I had to actually, then I went and got the better
Right.
gun. But you got like you've got a high-end gun before you had a dog. Or you're kind of backwards, Christine. I don't you kind of does she walk backwards with a camera when
Uh,
she's just
yeah, pretty much.
Christy, what was your, I mean, I always ask this when I know somebody started later and didn't do it, growing up, which like my daughter's all shot growing up, BB guns and plinking cans. So like the mount was familiar. The aiming is not the same as swinging, but the transition was you wanted to go duck hunting. Was there a lesson on shotguns before you went out on that? I mean, I think we skipped that part because I'm always a little nervous with anybody with a gun that I haven't been with before.
Steve took me to we got local gun club. That's just a great shooting club here in Kenai, the Snowshoe Gun Club. And we went there and just shot clays, and I was good enough to go for the first time. After I decided this was going to be something I was going to do a lot, I started going every Sunday, and I was really set on shooting 25 straight. I'm no prodigy, or it took me almost 2 years to get there. But I loved trap shoot. I love shooting. I think that's why upland hunting is so neat. You get to shoot a lot. But yeah, I had a BT 99 that wasn't helping me with my just shooting once problem. And then I started shooting doubles, and I always liked trap more than skeet, which doesn't make sense for what we're doing, but
No, it doesn't.
so,
Especially the ducks. The ducks rarely come out at 15 or 16 yards.
Right.
I
Right.
I just like nobody talking to me. I'm shooting. I can't have a
feeling if Christine read a book about bridges, somebody would have sold her a bridge. But how about so the other one, and when I was reading this, I almost put the book down and canceled this interview because you guys kept an entire litter of puppies. Okay. Come on, Steve. I'm not saying I'm a genius, okay? I kept 2 one time out of a litter, and that was a bit of a chore and a mistake. What in the world can you explain? I'm going to Christine for the reason why, unless it's a Steve story. What happened there?
No, it's a
it
Christine
was
story.
really, yeah, it was. We're not breeders, obviously. And so when the two Parker and Winchester, 2 setters had a litter, it was tough. She wasn't a great mom. It took a couple days for her to have the puppies. Her milk didn't come in, all the stuff. So we were going to keep 2 from the litter, and we decided not to name any of them as we decided which 2 we would keep. Meanwhile, we're bonding with all of these little puppies. And so Steve calls out the name of one of them, and I was like, oh no, he's picked one. I better hurry up and pick one. I call out the name of another one. These 2 got names now. Pretty soon they all had names, and except the female didn't have a name. And finally Steve was like, we'll call her Purdy. They are all named after gun makers. So, and I think at one point somebody asked me, how much do you want for one of your puppies? And I was like, ew, like I'm not selling these. I like all these puppies. What's wrong with keeping them?
I can't even, I literally, I've had, I don't know, 16, maybe 18 litters of puppies over my life. And they've always been, I've got in this, I don't do it anymore, but in this kennel, in this room, my dog kennels are on that wall. There's a whelping room. And if I try to bring a litter of puppies into the house, I know you didn't have a professional kennel, right? You didn't have it. You did it like everybody with a pool in the house and my God. I mean, is that that had a, I'm sorry, that there's got to be a almost we're going to break up story from this. Or were you both on the same page?
Well, I think we
Well,
were.
part of it. Yeah, I mean, part of the thing was I had just retired that spring.
Okay.
So that made it, if that hadn't happened, there's no way we could have kept
Okay.
all
So
of them.
that made it somewhat doable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Plus we have a lot of area. We already had a really huge fenced in area for the dogs, and it was a very dog friendly environment. We had
Yeah.
dog doors in my shop and in the house,
Okay.
and so that part of it, yeah, it was. I mean, no doubt, it was a huge pain in the butt. I mean, you got four male dogs. You try to figure out who's pissing on the furniture. It was tough.
Yeah.
And
That old saying of I've heard guys say this. I take my dog out at the back door and I'll go take basically a leak in the yard. Whether that really makes the dog know that that's the thing to do or not, I don't believe it. But if it makes you, but with 5, there's no way you're going to go out there. It's
right.
So that's out of the question. We can say, Christine,
It was
going to go out in the yard and pee.
It was a very trying process. I'll just leave it at that. But,
Okay. All right. It
but
did.
now, the setters, they're setters. They're wonderful around the house. They don't bother anything. They just, and we're down to one lab, so that makes it pretty easy.
Yeah. And no fighting with the males, because setters are known for being a much, let's be honest, a lot friendlier dog than some dogs, right? But males are males, and sometimes you get that thing.
Yeah, we never really had that.
Well, that would help.
Even, yeah, for sure.
Because I had to get rid of a dog. I wouldn't get rid of the dog that was the instigator because he was my favorite and oldest dog, and I literally had to give his son away. Not give, I sold him, and I was like this, but I knew it was going to be a management problem for 12 years. That he would literally
right.
He would try to kill his son until his son was old enough to kill him, and I wasn't gonna. I just couldn't do that. So
well. To be fair, Winchester hates his children. He absolutely hates them. But he's not mean to them. He just hates them. He doesn't want anything to do with them. He just avoids them. So doesn't want to hunt with them. Doesn't want to do anything. So there's one out of the litter, Hugo, that took after Winchester in terms of being a really prey-driven, hard-driving dog.
Yeah.
And so they'll hunt together. They'll hunt together, but separate. But
they'll hunt at the
other
same
than that,
time.
yeah, they will. Yeah.
So, do you? I know this might sound like a funny question, but I do have a friend that's in North Dakota, and he literally doesn't train his dogs. Like, he lives out in the country. There's birds all over the place. They learn stop to flush because they've chased enough birds. Like a good friend of mine says, you'll never see a coyote chasing a bird he doesn't get, right? There's no point in it. So
right.
Do you have a training regiment that you put the puppies through, or was it like we take one out, we see what it does? How did you guys handle? Because that's a lot. If you think of actual training, Now you got 5 pupils. You know, how did that go?
Well, yeah. Well, just to kind of back up a little bit, when we got Winchester, the breeder told me, he said, just don't try to train him anything for 2 years. He said you can teach him to come and stay, but other than that, don't do anything. And
Yeah.
so I said, well, what the hell am I supposed to do with him? And he said, well, just take him hunting and see how that works out. Well, it worked out pretty good. But the thing was, is we had to learn that he knew more about what he was doing than we thought we knew about it.
Right.
And once we learned to trust him, he did do what you're talking about. You know, he would flush birds, but after a bit, he settled down and realized this is how we do it.
Yeah.
And
it's not because
so we did this.
We just learned it. Yeah.
Yeah, he just learned it. And so with the pups, we started taking them, you know, real early as well. And it was kind of the same way, but the differences in the pups are more about how their prey drive more than their, you know, like they'll all point birds.
Yeah.
But Purdy, the little girl, she has a good prey drive, but she's insane. She's, you know, her mother was a wall licker, and I think she inherited the whole, you know, the whole mental issue from her mother.
It's really like having a family of kids. You're like, well, you know what? He's not going to college. Okay.
Right. Pretty much.
His brother's going to med school next month. He just hope he can hold down a job at McDonald's. It's
right. That's pretty much what we're talking about.
God, if you two could have been my parents, I would have excelled. You just let me figure out what I was good at. I like that.
Yeah, and that's what we did, you know, but we've been real fortunate how that's worked out. So
this isn't meant to be a put Christine on the spot, but I had a question here. And it's probably impossible to answer, Christine. But if your first hunt wasn't with Steve, do you think you'd be on the same path?
That's a great question. I don't know. I don't think I would have gone. It would have to been someone a lot like Steve, like somebody that I trusted. You know, I've gone on hunts with guys before, like we'll go in on a group hunt or something, and just sometimes the sensitivity that they have to someone who's new, I know it would be a major turnoff.
Yeah.
And, you know, Steve, I'm not saying Steve's like, you know, the most sensitive person in the world, like crying over refrigerator commercials or anything, but I mean, it seemed like he cared and he respected the animals and the environment, and me coming from that place of being, you know, most of my reading was probably not supportive of hunting. You know, my friends were like, what are you doing? It doesn't make any sense. So, I mean, I definitely trust in him. If I were to ever be a hunter, it'd have to be somebody that I knew, that I was close to, that I was like, this is kind of a big deal going out here, taking game. There's a lot of skills you have to have, a lot of, especially in Alaska, a lot of survival skills. You just wouldn't want to head out with anybody, anywhere to do anything. So
no,
I wish I could. I know so many people want to hunt. I know we do this stuff with Becoming an Outdoors Woman, which is just an awesome program, but I really wonder how people can get going without someone really being there for them
or maybe being the right somebody even.
to write somebody. Yeah.
Yeah. Because my start was just a bunch of teenagers. We just tried to, and I still do this. Your writing is very lyrical. It's not like a how-to or anything. It's just stories. And my mantra has been, I refrain from ever saying, like that fellow you met in North Dakota, I'm going because of the dog. I go because of my friends, right? It's like, it was always like a group. We learned to trap shoot together at a trap shooting club. Then we went to a spot in Illinois that the state put pheasants out for. So for us, it was like, it was a reason to have a little get together. And like yeah, we always wanted to get something, but the success for us was, not getting a DUI, basically, I'm being a little sarcastic, of course. It would be, let's say, not getting a speeding ticket, right? Okay. But it was so, and to this day, like I'll hunt by myself around home, but it's rare that I would hunt for more than an hour or two. It would be just like, oh, I got some time. I'm going to take a little jaunt in the woods. It's more like, hey, can you go somewhere tomorrow? It's like, I always want to be with somebody. So to that, I know Steve's probably had a lot of hunts where he's by himself. Christine, do you grab the truck and grab a dog, or do you like the camaraderie as much as you like to hunt? Do you want to be with somebody?
I wanted to know what it would be like to hunt by myself. I did go. I've gone a couple times by myself with a dog.
Mm-hmm.
I think that camaraderie is really what makes it happen for, like, at least for, like, I'm involved in some of these groups where women are trying to get an entry into hunting, and that's how it works, is you go in groups and you feel that support, and it's fun for that reason. But I really liked the 2 times I went by myself. Maybe it's been more, but there's 2 I remember. It's very different. It's not the same thing. It's like, I think maybe there's different categories of what you're doing when you go out by yourself with your dog versus when you go with a partner, and it's all the rituals, the conversation at the tailgate,
Yeah.
the getting ready to go, the ride, all that stuff. And if that's not there, then what is it? I think it's something else. It's the same thing. It's under the category of hunting, but it's just a little bit different.
Yeah. When I was saying about friends, I'll sarcastically say, if I didn't have dogs, I'd go hunting with my friends, but that I wouldn't want to hunt with just their dogs either. You know what I mean? You still want to see your dog do something, right? And going out by yourself with your dog is one thing, because you don't have to tell the stories if it wasn't good. But if you go out, I would go out with other people. That's when I would miss my dog. But if I go out with my dog, I miss the people.
That's funny.
I guess I'm hooked on, maybe that's why I do a podcast, because I just can't stop talking to people, I guess.
Yeah, and I think you're right, Ron. I think a lot of people do go for the camaraderie. When I was a kid with my dad and his buddies, I know that was a big part of it.
Yeah.
And for me, that was good too. But I've just always loved being outside. I've always loved, and it didn't matter if anybody was with me, even if I had a dog or not. I just have always loved wandering the country and seeing what's there.
Yeah.
And and then when I got into the law enforcement business and I took this very long break from hunting, a lot of the guys that I had hunted with before had moved on. Plus, my best friend from high school, who was my hunting buddy, he was killed very early in our, after we'd only been hunting together for about 5 years, and he was killed. So those things kind of, took away from a lot of me having a lot of guy friends, which in some ways probably allowed Christine to be a bigger part of my hunting. A lot of guys don't want women to go. Not so much any nowadays, but before, as well as I do, there was a lot of leave them at home.
There was, I can't remember running into anybody 30 years ago in South or North Dakota that brought their wives or girlfriends with them. I'm sure there was, but it was that rare that you just wouldn't run into it. And when I saw the difference I saw was, I judged for NAVDA, the North American Versatile Hunting Dog organization, for a long time. So when I started, it would mostly be guys showing up with their dogs. Maybe a wife came with them if they had to drive in for the day or they were visiting somebody. And then I saw that progression of a couple women handlers and then a few more. And then I've been to tests where it's 50-50, but I may, with your background and your pause in hunting, it almost sounds like you actually found a hunting buddy before you found a partner, you know, like I got a hunting buddy again.
Well,
And I'm
yeah,
have a
and
better
it
shot.
became, I mean, that never, certainly was never an intentional thing, but that's pretty much exactly what happened.
Yeah.
She became my hunting buddy.
Yeah.
And so, it's the best of all worlds. You have that.
This is Steve, this is another rabbit hole, but I read it and you're talking about your dad had a lot of the old classic hunting novels.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like Rourke or maybe George Bird Evans or all those lyrical paint those pictures of Gene Hill stories. You mentioned that.
Hell yeah.
But,
Yeah.
but I'm thinking like when I started meeting people that lived in the Dakotas, if most of them were farmers and ranchers, they didn't even have the time to read. Was your dad I don't want to say a different cat, but a lot of dads of our dad's age weren't prolific readers, let alone where did he get this from a lineage thing of those old classics? Because you could find a bunch of guys our age that wouldn't even know the titles of the books.
Here. Yeah, I was really fortunate because my dad he was a voracious reader, and he loved all that old literature. And like you say, yeah, you're right. In that part of the world, who has time to read? But that's what he would do. He didn't watch TV. He would sit and read these books,
Yeah.
especially the long winters. And, he would either work on his guns, refinish stock, stuff like that, or he'd be reading. And he would pass those books to me. He would say, "You should read this one." And I was an early reader, loved it. I was a kid that would go to bed and cover myself up with a little light that my grandmother gave me because she was a co-conspirator, so I could read long into the night.
Right.
That's just how I was.
Yeah. That's like right out of a movie with the kid under the blanket. Like, I got to finish this book
Yeah.
tonight. And you always wonder if
Yeah.
you're watching a movie, when's he going to sleep? Well, apparently you didn't need much
Right.
sleep because
I didn't need much sleep. Yeah.
I don't want to. I don't want to go chapter by chapter in a book because I want people to read it. And like I said, it's just a lot of good stories on. Now, the more I talk to you two, the more I see the title, right? There's that love affair, but it is with all the parts. It's not like you saw Christine and you're like, I got to figure out how to get her to go hunting, and she didn't meet you and figure out I got to figure out how to go. It just kind of happened, almost kind of like your hunting upbringing just happened. It just
Yeah.
um
Yeah. That's a good way to describe it.
the question, and I'll be honest, I was cramming and I'm like, okay, there's got to be a grizzly bear story in here. I have terrible reading retention. Okay. Did I miss a grizzly bear story, or did you purposely not keep, wolves and grizzly bears and Alaska and dogs? I mean, do you have any, has that been a problem or not really?
That's got to be the most overblown thing there is in Alaska is the bear
Really?
stories. Yeah.
Oh,
It's just almost to the point of being ridiculous.
really?
Yeah.
Because
When I first came to, I managed to, I went to work when I was a kid, and so I had some money, and we all had big pistols. I was carrying a Super Blackhawk around in a damn gunfighter rig when I was 15 years old.
Yeah.
And you didn't go anywhere without it because of the bears.
Right.
It was like, but you just don't see them. And where we're hunting, is it a real thing? Yeah, they're out there, but we've never had a problem ever with when we're hunting. I've I guided on the Alaska Peninsula for a year, and you can make your own troubles with bears.
Yeah.
That. And so that part of it, yeah, when you're messing with bears and you're hanging out with them, yeah, that's different. But we just, and the dogs, our dogs that's been something great. They don't care about other animals. They're bird hunters. You know, a moose can walk by and they don't care. They're hunting birds.
Really?
And so,
Wow.
yeah,
I,
yeah.
I could
So,
think of a lot of German wire hairs that would be a little different on that respect.
yeah, like I say, we're lucky. We're really
Yeah.
lucky. And Rigby, our lab, he had a run in with a moose out in our yard when he was really young. And so now he doesn't want anything to do with other critters either.
Most people worry
But
about
yeah,
porcupine aversion, and you got moose aversion.
moose aversion, yeah. But and we put bells on them. We put bells on the dogs for that reason too.
Do you, do you
Because
carry bear spray? Is that just smart to carry bear spray, or do you find yourself? I mean,
it's probably smart to do it. I've never done it. Probably never will.
wow. I got I think it was 3 years ago in October. I had a judging assignment, and I went into Anchorage. I've been up to Alaska a lot of times. I've been caribou hunting. When you were talking about the Brooks Range, I've been north on the Brooks Range, caribou hunted with Steve and Danny, and I got to see like a lot of the scenery you were describing in the book.
Yeah.
And I get that beauty. I feel that same beauty when I go to North Dakota, though, because I can see for a mile. To me, that's beautiful. I live in the trees, right? I couldn't see a burglar coming up to rob my house here in Michigan. But when I had this judging assignment, the chapter there out of Soldat, how do you say it? Soldatna?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not they always told the judges, if you come up here, we'll take you fishing or ptarmigan hunting or duck hunting or something. So they sweetened the pie with, we're going to take you duck and ptarmigan hunting. And I'm like, well, that's worth it. I'll pay for my own plane ticket now, As it turned out, we got snow. There was like a really bad snowstorm that came in a early weather. So that knocked us out of going ptarmigan hunting. But we went on I think it's a Chickaloon Flats. Is that right?
Piccolo.
Yeah.
But we took some god awful 3-hour drive up a mountain road to stay in a service cabin. And I'm like,
Right.
what? This is where you guys stay to go duck hunting, right? And we're shooting these grouse all along the road for food. And I'm like, this is the best part of it. The drive in was the best part. And then we hiked our way down. We drove back down 30 minutes and then hiked down to the flats. And then I thought it was the stupidest thing I've ever done, although it turned out to be pretty damn amazing, But going back to the bears, and I'm just doing this to tell you why it scared. So we get to this little, I guess it's a U.S. forest cabin that you can reserve. And there's claw marks all over the outhouse and all over the cabin. Just claw. I'm like, are you guys nuts? And now we're going to go. I said, what? The bears don't come down for the duck hunters? They're going to leave it. So we had no bear spray, no pistols. And I got to tell you, I was a little bit of a Mary there for the walk in and the walk out, because we had to walk through the woods and down the mountain. And I'm just like, I just felt like the whole woods was staring at me again. So you might be.
That's funny. It's reminiscent a little bit of, where we hunt ducks. We'd usually take one trip where we fly to the west side of Cook Inlet over to the Readout Bay management area. It's this huge wetland, but there's a lot of duck cabins over there that were built back in the 60s.
Oh.
And I started going over there when I was a kid. And the first time me and a buddy and a couple other guys went over there, and the duck hunting is fabulous. I mean, it's just awesome.
Yeah.
So we had all these ducks, and we hung them on the rail of the cabin, just hung them out there. And we were just going to clean them the next day. Well, we're sleeping and we hear this ruckus, and there's a brown bear on the porch, and he ate every one of our ducks. So when we go over there, that's about the only time that I'll take slugs for the shotguns. Is I'll just throw a couple slugs in my pocket. But other than that, it's just not a big deal.
Yeah, and you probably, like you said, that bear figured that out. He wasn't really coming for you, but he's like, thank you.
Oh, right.
Thank
Well,
you.
the thing that we done, we had a little grill and we'd cook bacon and duck breasts that night. So that smell probably drifted up, up towards the higher ground. He probably smelled it. They can smell stuff for a long ways.
Yeah, yeah. So you basically drew them in, basically.
Pretty much, yeah. Yeah.
Christine, did you have any, now, so they're going back to growing up. Is that a typical upbringing? Were you bear aware or wolf aware, or was that just like, was that part of you? Did you have to get over any of that, or?
No, yeah, my family in a little village south of McGrath for a year, and it was on the side of a mountain they called it Bear Mountain. I don't think it was its official name, but people would tell us, oh, in the spring the bears are gonna pop out of there like, prairie gophers, and there was the same thing in our cabin, the big claw marks. We had a door that was 12 inches wide, cooler, the meat cache was way far away from the house with the thought that the would keep the bears away from eating you. And everybody was terrified of bears. And I never saw the reason why, because I never saw any bears. And when I did, they didn't want to be around me. So I never had it, but I definitely, my family would be pretty scared of bears. And, but around here, we see them down at the Russian River when we're fishing, and just kind of steer clear of them. I've never felt the fear personally, but oh yeah, maybe one time I did. Yeah, we were there's a mountain we go up, and a bear had attacked somebody hiking, where and so I was like carrying Steve's hog leg, which it's really embarrassing. It's like a gigantic, I'm like dragging my leg up the mountain. Then I was just too lazy to do it after that.
That reminds me of Maddie Ross carrying her dad's pistol from the war in True Grit.
Oh yeah.
You had more
Pretty
pistols than you could even deal
Never
with.
mind, I'm not afraid anymore. It's too heavy.
Well, listen, I want to thank you guys for doing this. And I love, just like I said, I love people. I love hunting stories. And I didn't want to go chapter by chapter. It's just that I will say I enjoyed the book. Now that I figured out the subtitle of it, I think I enjoy the book post reading it even more. But I did see a post. You guys are you guys going, I don't want to say a book tour, but you want to expound on that a little bit, Christine?
Yeah, we're trying to figure out places to do presentations in the lower 48, and we have tentatively got a couple pinned down. So we're going to go over to start. We're going to go to the East Coast, West Virginia, and do a presentation at the National Training Facility there. And then we're looking at places in Wyoming.
For the U.S. Fish and Wildlife, their training center. That's
Gotcha.
So yeah, we're looking at Wyoming and Idaho, Montana, and if you have ideas, we don't have it where we could share it yet, but it's all getting worked out.
Right. Well, the thing that jumped out at me when I saw that post was, Pheasant Fest is a really big show. Obviously, ton of bird hunters, not a lot of ptarmigan experience, right? But they'll have a lot of speakers, and sometimes like at the banquet, they'll have a couple short speakers and then whoever the keynote speaker is or something like that. Or on the Purina Bird Dog stage, they have a habitat stage. I mean, that to me would be, and then I'm going to go to the Wild Turkey Federation show. Not that I'm a turkey hunter, but I heard there was a lot of duck hunting, a heavy duck hunting side to it. And I mean, I'll keep my ears open for that kind of stuff because, that helps draw in people when oh yeah, let me hear about that, and it's good for you guys. It's good. And it's funny. It's just like a podcaster like myself. I'm always looking for content. Well, the people that run these shows, they're always looking for content too. They're like, they don't have to know who you are. They just have to say somebody's going to be here. So if you ever get in the middle of the 48, I'll jump down there.
Yeah, I'd love to see you again. We met when you were up here for a women's upland hunt. I think it was right before your trip to Chickaloon.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I totally forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was I still have that t-shirt. They misprinted something on it. We got them all for free. Whoever did the printing for the long sleeve orange t-shirt, I can't remember what the typo was on it, but it was pretty big. And I don't think they charged them anything for t-shirts.
That's great.
Am I missing anything, or as far as where people can go? I'm sure it's Amazon, and anything different about it?
Not
Or do
Amazon.
we have to write to Christine herself and send her a money order? How do we get
And I'll fly down with the book
right.
by dog sled. No, actually the book was published by Alaska Geographic, so it's on their website. It's not on Amazon. The purchases for the book go to help fund Alaska Geographic, which is a nonprofit. It's the official partner for all the public land agencies in Alaska.
So they have to go.
have
So when I do my intro, you're gonna have to send me that, because I'll stutter my way through it, and because nowadays if they can't find the book, they're gonna look there on Amazon and they're like
Right.
You might want to think about that later on, but you can still get no, Amazon's gonna get all the money. We don't want that. No, we don't need that. But maybe through some of the other conservation groups could sell it through them, at least almost as a pop-up banner, I'm
looking at that. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, because I mean it's a story about what we all love. And like if I was gonna wave my wand and run, I'd be like, why wouldn't RGS and DU and PF and QF want to promote the book for the good of whatever the cause is? So
Yeah.
you need a PR person. You need a PR person. Is there another one in the future or anything coming down the pike, or are you just looking forward to 24 hours of daylight?
Both.
We're always looking forward to that, but there's definitely some thoughts of another project. Well, don't really have anything nailed down yet, but we certainly would like to do something else.
Right. And while we're on it, I do remember from re-listening this morning when I interviewed Christine, you wrote a book early. It was with women in Alaska. And is that still out there? Can people look that up?
Yeah, the Women Hunting Alaska book. It's I haven't looked for it in a while. It might still be on Amazon, but it's also through a regional publisher, Tony Russ. He does hunting books here in Alaska. So
okay. Well, make sure you send me all that so I can get all that tagged out there. See, I gave you homework to do.
I'll do it.
Well, I don't know if our paths will cross, but if they ever do, I would rather just smoke a cigar and drink a beer with both of you. But if you could take me somewhere bear free or convince me that I shouldn't worry about it because it's just a wives' tale, I wouldn't mind walking behind a. God, though, you're setters. So when I hear you taking 20 minutes to get to a point, that does not sound like Ron's type of hunt these days.
That's a mild. Some of them have been a lot longer than that.
Oh my God.
Like 40 minutes. Yeah. It's amazing. Winchester, he'll hold a point forever. So but what they can do in, a couple minutes, it takes us 40 minutes. Just crazy.
Right. It's funny. It's such a mismatched team when it comes to physicality, isn't it?
It is.
And talent. Like anybody get a hunting license, but like, how did they make a dog that good?
No kidding.
No,
They're amazing.
Yeah. If somebody wants to say God made them for us, I'm like, you know what? I'll buy it. I'll buy that analogy.
Good as any explanation. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, it's really been a pleasure chatting with you, and I do hope when I do get up to Alaska, it's usually down to Prince of Wales Island, Ketchikan, when I do a little cabin repair for friends and a little bit of fishing. But who knows? If you guys get down to the 48,
Well, let us know.
keep me posted, and
Yeah.
I will definitely love to. And I'm also one of them guys, if you say it, don't be surprised if I do show up, because I am retired too now. So
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, it's a good place to be. Well, we appreciate you having us on. Very much enjoyed it, and looking forward to maybe seeing you sometime.
all right. Well, thanks both of you very much. That was Christine Cunningham and Steve Meyer, The Land We Share. Subtitle. It's not a subtitle. What do they call that?
Subtitle.
A Love Affair Told in Hunting Stories, which will then make sense to you once you buy and read the book. All right, guys. We'll see you.
Thanks,
All right, thank
Ron.
you.